Welcome to part 7 of my OS 5-inch gauge Stephenson'S rocket. This is all about regulating the oil flow from the mechanical lubricator. Here are the component parts of the mechanical lubricator. To my surprise, the stuffing gland of the pump body used graphited yarn. I changed this for an O-ring. No reason, because graphited yarn of this age is very good stuff. Here I'm screwing the gland in place, and you can see that the piston with its horseshoe Scotch crank is fitted in place, and this moves up and down very freely. I think the piston's a bit long. I'm going to shorten it. Why did I do that? Well, I thought incorrectly that if I shortened the piston it would pull less oil, but I wasn't thinking it must be this cold that I have. Either that or it's because I'm now 67 years old. I'll put that down to a senior moment, as shortening the piston rod does not alter its stroke. Anyway, on with the show. In this part of the clip I'm having a really close look and seeing how the pump body works. When this block is bolted in place into the tank, using the one-way valve to hold it in place, the bottom hole, the small one, faces down, and that's where the oil is sucked into the body when the piston is lifted. Then as the piston moves downwards, oil is pumped out of the small cylinder into the one-way valve. And on the other side of the block, if you just wind back to have another look, and in there is a larger ball forming a one-way valve. So once the oil is in the cylinder, it can't go back into the tank, and it's forced out of the other one-way valve that's connected to the cylinders. This mechanical feed pump is slightly unusual. It works more like a hand pump for a boiler feed. It takes in the oil, then the oil can't go back out the same way it came in, and it's forced out of another one-way valve underneath the tank. The problem is there seems to be no way of regulating the amount of oil. I much prefer these type of lubricators every time. These are made by David English of Jubilee Fittings, and they work really well. They can be fiddly to set up. This is not a rotary pump. The shaft doesn't go all the way around, there isn't a clutch or anything, and the position of the cam just needs setting to depress the piston on the pump, which then returns via a spring. This is my idea that I'm going to try, and at this stage, whilst I'm filming this, I don't know whether it's going to work. I'm using a very high quality drain cock, and these are from my friend Chris Lockwood at 21st Century Steam. For some reason on the inlet side of the pump there was a small screw which blocked up a hole, and when I took this screw out and tried the pump it didn't work. So I thought to myself, aha, why not fit a finely adjustable valve in place of this screw, which will act as a bleed on the inlet. If the valve is open fully, then no oil is going to get anywhere. If I close the valve, then the full amount of oil is going to get pumped out into the line. Here I'm demonstrating the principle. This is the one-way valve underneath the tank, and as you can see, initially lots of oil is coming out, but now suddenly not quite so much is coming out of the union. And here I've opened the drain cock, which is now deep inside the tank, a little bit too far, so no oil comes out. It's a compromise, getting the feed just right between the valve being open and closed. I don't know what the little screw was for really. Maybe it was to fit some sort of an adapter in there to control the oil flow. I don't have any instructions on how to build this model. So my oil bleed idea seems to work fine, providing that I set the position of the drain cock precisely to allow just enough oil in to work, but not too much. I did a similar thing on a small traction engine that I have, but the pump was different, so I just put a bypass valve on the oil output and returned some of it to the tank. And again, it's a very precise adjustment. And how do I know that my cylinders are getting lubrication? The engine's running very fast at the moment, as you can see by the speed of the arm operating the oil pump. I just filled the oil level up to a marker, the two mounting bolts being the marker. And then I ran the engine at this high speed for quite a while, complete with something in the chimney to stop me breathing the oil mist. Before I carried out this modification, running the engine at this speed would empty this oil tank in a few minutes. But now it's working great. The oil level in the tank is dropping, but not too fast. When I first bought this beautiful model from Simon Hudson at the Steam Workshop, I was puzzled by this thing at the front. And all it is a large cast iron weight, and you fit this to the engine if you want to run it. The sole purpose of this cast iron weight, apart from having a couple of sort of rudimentary buffers on the front, is to put weight over the front wheels. And then the very small locomotive is capable of pulling a person around a track. I painted the buffers at the front of the weight using some matte dark brown paint. I did this to simulate leather because on a lot of early locomotives they had big leather buffers at the front. At the moment though, it's not looking too much like leather and the paint's still wet because I've only just painted it. The engine still rocks from side to side slightly, but as I said in an earlier episode, when I watched a video of a full-size replica of a Stephenson's rocket going down the track, that was also rocking from side to side very slightly. The main thing is though, it's a beautiful little model as this. And I spent quite a lot of time obsessing over the position of the valve gear, and as you can see, look how slowly it will run. There aren't a lot of engines that will run this slowly. Setting the valve gear on this locomotive was a bit of a trial and error operation. And when I think about it, it took about 4 hours over a period of intermittent tweaking of the valve gear to get it to run like this, but I think it's worth it. Now it's time for me to stop talking and just leave you with the sights and sounds of a Stephenson's rocket in 5-inch gauge running on the bench using compressed air. Thanks for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed the series. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website. Click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you will find it very easy to find other videos that you may like to watch.